What if I told you the Italian Grand Prix at Monza wasn't decided on the track, but on the McLaren pit wall? What if I told you that a single radio message might have just changed the entire course of the 2025 season? Oscar Piastri did everything right. A flawless stop, smart strategy, and a podium in sight. Yet, in the blink of an eye, the team asked him to give it all back to Lando Norris. And now, with new evidence surfacing, the question is clear: did McLaren just choose their champion? Heading into the final laps, Oscar Piastri found himself ahead of Lando Norris. He had executed his race perfectly. A clean pit stop, sharp strategy, and enough pace to stay in front of Ferrari's Charles Leclerc. Everything looked settled until the radio crackled with an order that stunned fans and commentators alike. "Oscar, this is a bit like Hungary last year. Please let Lando pass." The weight of those words was enormous. For Oscar Piastri, this wasn't just another race call. It was a moment that tested his trust in his team. He responded with calm frustration. "We said that a slow pit stop was part of racing, so I don't really get what's changed here. But if you really want me to do it, then I'll do it." It was the voice of a driver resigned, not defeated, but deeply unsettled. The entire situation began with McLaren's risky strategy. Hoping for a late safety car, they had delayed pit stops for both of their drivers. When Piastri boxed first on lap 45, his stop was flawless at just 1.9 seconds. One lap later, Norris came in, but disaster struck. A wheel gun failure dragged his stop out to 5.9 seconds, almost 4 seconds slower than his teammates. That delay was decisive. Norris rejoined behind Piastri, and the natural order of the race had shifted. At that point, most expected the two McLaren cars to battle it out on track, but instead, the pit wall stepped in. They intervened not for tactical reasons, but to correct what they saw as an unfair twist of fate. Yet in racing, slow pit stops are part of the game. Sometimes luck swings your way, sometimes it doesn't. That's the nature of Formula One. The decision to swap positions was controversial, and even Lando Norris seemed uneasy about it. His engineer apologized over the radio, and Norris offered only silence. Later, when speaking to the media, he admitted, "Every now and again, we make mistakes as a team. Today was one of them. I did everything I could. I tried to fight against Max Verstappen. We had a good race, and he came out on top." His words were diplomatic, perhaps too diplomatic, as though he knew he had gained from the situation, but understood how damaging it appeared. Meanwhile, Max Verstappen had already stamped his authority on the race. After pitting on lap 38 to switch to hard tires, he controlled the front with the kind of dominance reminiscent of his unstoppable 2023 season. As McLaren wrestled with internal politics, Verstappen simply pulled away, eventually crossing the line 19 seconds clear of the field. Over the radio, when his engineer told him about the McLaren swap, he laughed. Just because he had a slow stop, that smirk summed it all up. While McLaren tripped over themselves, Verstappen marched to victory. The reaction outside the cars was even sharper. Social media erupted with criticism, with fans accusing McLaren of favoritism. Former world champion Nico Rosberg, speaking on Sky F1, was blunt. "Pit stop times are just part of racing. Sometimes one is quicker, sometimes slower. That will require talks, because Oscar is not going to be happy with that." Having lived through the volatile battles with Lewis Hamilton at Mercedes, Rosberg knew exactly what moments like this could ignite inside a team. Jamie Chadwick, also on the Sky F1 broadcast, echoed the criticism, pointing out that McLaren seemed to keep making the same mistakes. She highlighted how the situation mirrored Hungary 2024, where the roles had been reversed, and Norris had been asked to give way to Piastri. Fans remembered how long it took Norris to accept that order back then, and how it had left scars. This time, Piastri obeyed immediately, perhaps recalling the headlines from a year ago and choosing not to fight. But obedience did not erase the sting. The bigger issue is that McLaren justified the decision as fairness. They argued that Oscar Piastri only gained the place because of strategy, not merit. But in truth, the only reason Norris lost position was because of a slow pit stop. That wasn't Piastri's fault. It wasn't even part of strategy. It was simply racing misfortune. By interfering, McLaren effectively rewrote reality. As journalist Ben Anderson put it, this was a needless and silly look, trying to stage manage. This championship, the comparisons to history are unavoidable. Mercedes tried to control the chaos of Hamilton and Rosberg and nearly imploded. Ferrari stumbled through political favoritism between Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc, losing momentum. Red Bull famously left Mark Webber bitter, with the feeling of being the number two driver behind Sebastian Vettel. Now, McLaren has stepped onto the same dangerous path. For Oscar Piastri, the situation cuts deep. He leads the championship by 31 points, but how can he trust his team when they rewrite results in the name of balance? For Lando Norris, the sympathy is thinner. Yes, he was unlucky with the pit stop, but being handed the position back only fuels critics who believe he enjoys favoritism within the team. Both drivers walked away from Monza without joy. Piastri's tone after the race was subdued. Bit of a tough one, not the easiest weekend. Thanks for the effort. Not anger, but resignation. Norris, normally upbeat and cheeky, wasn't smiling either. He offered no words of thanks to Oscar, no acknowledgement of the handover, just a flat reflection on his failed attempt to beat Verstappen. The real danger for McLaren isn't just the fallout from Monza, it's what comes next. If another pit stop error changes the running order, will they intervene again? If Oscar Piastri is leading for the win, will he be told to move aside? And if Norris loses the championship by a handful of points, will people point back to this race as the moment it slipped away by trying to be fair? McLaren may have created a precedent that makes every future call look suspicious. As analyst Scott Mitchell-Mom warned, once you start rewriting races to fix accidental problems, you invite scrutiny on every decision. Every pit stop becomes a conspiracy. Every order becomes a sign of bias. And in a sport built on chaos, trying to impose perfect fairness only creates more mistrust. The irony is that McLaren wanted unity. They wanted to avoid the toxic rivalries that tore other teams apart. But by intervening, they may have sown the seeds of division. Oscar Piastri's quiet sighs and Lando Norris's cold diplomacy tell a story louder than any headline. Trust has been shaken, and once it cracks, it rarely heals. The Italian Grand Prix should have been remembered as another dominant win for Max Verstappen, with McLaren close behind. Instead, it will be remembered as the race that lit a fire inside the McLaren garage. Fans are left debating whether the team made the right call or simply picked their favorite son. The paddock is whispering, the media is circling, and the drivers themselves know this was not just another Sunday at the track. In the end, Monza was not about speed. It was about politics, perception, and power. It was about whether a team chasing its first real shot at titles in over a decade can survive the pressure of having the drivers fighting at the front. Because if there is one lesson history has taught us, it is that internal battles can destroy even the strongest teams. So, what do you think? Was McLaren right to make the swap at Monza? Or have they already crowned their champion? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more F1 stories that change everything. Thanks for watching.